would you say should implementation timelines and costs carry into the decision?
Implementation is, it's the hardest part. And it kind of makes sense, right? Because it's kind of fun to call some vendors or even internally get your people together to, hey, what can we do here? You start visioning and you're kind of at a different level of the day to day. And then you start talking to some vendors and they're really interested and they're great people. All of them are. They're really great people, I think. They love what they do, right? And they can really provide a lot of value, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of fun. And then you do a bunch of demos, you get bored, and but then ultimately like, oh my gosh, we're gonna make a decision, okay. And then you sort of get into contract negotiations, it gets kind of exciting, and then you sign, and then bam, now the company, the construction prospect is now a client, and now they start the implementation. And the implementation teams, like yours from CMIC, from other vendors too, like these guys and gals, they're like professionals. Like they come in, they're like, okay, here's what we need. Bam, 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 let's go. Right? It's their job. They're going to do that. And the people on the receiving end, the other side of the table are like, wait, what? I have to do what? I've got a day job here. Oh, okay, well, you got a new day job. So that's why we say it's really important to prepare your implementation team, even identify who's going to do the implementation during the selection. Get that core team. If it's a big enough company, you have the resources, those people sort of involved in the selection just roll right into the implementation, and that becomes their day job. If you don't have the luxury of that many resources, then you do need to backfill and make sure that your people are ready for implementation.
So in your estimation or in your experience, what would you think that, or how would you describe good vendor support?
It's vital. There's no way that through the evaluation process and even the implementation process that any client is done with their ERP. It's not going to happen. I'm just here to tell you the truth. And once an organization understands that they are creating a relationship that could be for, hopefully, it's for decades, right? We don't want our clients to switch software in 3 years after getting into their new app. That'd be terrible. That's a failure with my firm. Like, that'd be horrible. We have run into that a few times, but that's because they've had astronomical growth. And that's fine. That's okay. But even then, I'd rather we picked a little bit bigger system to start with so that when the growth came, they could grow into it more. But so if you think about an implementation normally taking anywhere on the small end of an organization to 6 months up to maybe a year or two, depending on how big the company is, then what happens? Oh, we just run this and everything's fine. No, that's not it. Okay, we'll hire somebody that knows the app and they'll maintain it and operate it. That might not be a bad idea. There are instances where our clients do need to do that. They may even have a team, depending on how big they are and what they're doing with the app. But ultimately, having a software vendor who has support and is available and desirous of offering it is vital. There will be problems. Things will come up that nobody thought of. And you want to be able to have the vendor who knows the software the best to be able to come in and solve the problem as quickly as possible. Now, the reality is that there are some software vendors where their business model, and you can read this in their annual reports if they're public, or even when you're working with a firm in the selection process, it's best to ask a little bit about their financing and their own kind of financial liability. Then there's other organizations that are more around, they build the software solution and you'll hear things like customer for life, or you'll hear, we're going to go through all the cycles that you go through as an organization. We want to stay with you for 10 years. They're putting money and time and good people into their support organization. They're not just sending it to some external party or to some, frankly, less capable resources. Now, here's the reality is that the support folks, maybe they aren't in and doing the super advanced things that the consulting team is doing day in, day out. That's true, right? But they do need to know something about the product, but more importantly, they need to be integrated into the development organization so that when there is a problem, they can call and whoop, the development organization says, whoa, we got to get on this. instead of like, it doesn't matter, or it'll be 6 months. So having that support coupled with development, coupled with the implementation team is a strategic differentiator that some software vendors offer and literally others don't. So again, in the selection process, we recommend, and we dive into this too on behalf of our clients, like what does the software vendor really offer? And sometimes it might not seem like it's important now, or maybe it isn't into the future. Maybe we do hire a couple people to take care of things. We only have to call the vendor once or twice. But I'll tell you what, when you make those calls, it's usually because there's a major problem and your business has halted. So you want to have people that you trust to support your solution for sure.
Your area of expertise, so we're talking about ERP advisory consultancy. So what guidance would you say that ERP advisors offers to kind of small to medium-sized construction firms evaluating ERP software? I know you touched upon it, but this is a segment that I think is top of mind for a lot of firms.
Look, this is not an easy process. There's a lot of new topics, concepts, words that people come across when they're doing a selection process. There's a lot of internal alignment that needs to happen that maybe wasn't there, that led to the systems that we have now. And as long as we've had them, people just don't know. They don't know what they don't know. So there is a lot of risk around ERP projects, especially for the small to medium-sized companies that maybe are going through this for the first time, or they did it a long time ago. The technology curve and the capability, I think, just in general of technology is just every day. And I can barely keep up with it. This is my job, right? So I think it's, firms like ours, we sort of, you pay us to know what's happening in the market. We have just a tried and true process of getting a client from, I have no clue what to do, but I know I need to do something, all the way through to a successful go live. And so I think, again, as sponsors, as the individual or individuals from a company that get designated as the selection leads, the lead people, not even just the 5 or 6, but there's usually one person that's kind of out leading everybody. They need to know they can always get help, right? We have a ton of resources on our website. I think you guys have a ton of great resources too. Read everything you can. I'd be on ChatGPT or, Anthropic or I don't care which app, Grok, whatever, like asking all kinds of questions about, what can I do to make sure we're successful with this ERP project or this kind of company? And, it'll pull data from everywhere, and see if we can actually be informed about this stuff. And then have a lot of conversations with your colleagues at industry shows. I think a lot of people do that, where they go to the construction management groups, they go to, especially CFMA, and other trade shows and that. And I'm sure your vendors, your customers, your partners, as you said, they're going through these changes too. Talk to them. So get as much information as you can so that you understand what you're about to get into. And then, you can always reach out to firms like us. We love having we do really a couple different free consults with companies if it's a good fit. And frankly, even if you're not a good fit, we can say, oh, geez, you should just reach out to, to Jeff over at CMiC and just said, hey, we asked him to call. We don't get paid a dime for that kind of thing. Frankly, it helps us because then on our other projects with our software vendors where we do that, we can say, hey, remember we logged you that thing we needed over here, and on this project we need that. That's frankly the goodwill that we build up. But we can get in a 15-20 minute conversation, an organization going in the right direction. And then they may call us back later, they may not. But it's complex. It's all doable, and many companies, many sponsors are making these decisions, every day, every week. So just having the support behind you can really make a difference.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of intelligence kind of condensed into a few minutes. Thank you. So what would you say are some common misconceptions about ERP consultants that may lead to construction firms kind of underutilizing their services?
That concept of misconceptions, we actually have a white paper on the misconceptions of implementation. But you're right, even on the ERP consultants and the selection selection firms like us, like, let me simply break this down. It's very complex, but let me do it very simply. Basically, you have lots of different kinds of ERP consultants. And there's some firms that are going to get involved early on, right? We'll call those the selection firms. And there's very few selection firms that just do selection and client-side implementation. We actually help clients on the implementation. We don't do what CMIC professional services team does, but we'll help with project management, with data. We'll help with all kinds of stuff, training, videos. We build out training. We do all kinds of change management. We do all kinds of stuff. So it's not just the selection, but that's all we do. And we do work with multiple vendors, and we truly are independent and objective. So there's really just a small subset of companies that do that. There may be some firms that even do selections that actually do the implementation themselves, like the full implementation. We've come across a couple in the CMIC ecosystem, and their independence would be in question, honestly, because that's what they do, is they implement a specific software solution. So when they're advising, they're going to drive towards the software that they implement. Some of the accounting firms are like that, et cetera. So then there's also firms that just do implementation. So it really, ultimately, if you're looking at ERP consultants, again, I would definitely, I use Grok a lot. Definitely bang the heck out of the AI tools, the LLMs, that find out what is different and get an idea, and then call them and find a good resource at the company. Not just maybe the 1-800 salesperson that's more of kind of like trying to qualify you, but like get to a good salesperson that can really say, okay, this is what we do and we don't do. And I'm telling you, will find somebody finally who will just give you something in the way that you need to hear it, where you'll understand the truth. And then you can figure out what you need. But do your research for sure. It is a confusing market, but there's a lot of help that's out there. There's a lot of great people that have been through projects themselves, that have helped other organizations through it. And to have that kind of experience on your side, it's not just insurance. It's actually, you don't want to do this anytime soon. So you don't only want to be ensured that the project's going to be successful for today, but that you don't have to do this in 5 to 7 years.
Perfect, thank you. And so, last question, we started off kind of looking back, so we'll end off looking forward. So apart from AI, or maybe a different aspect of AI, what is one trend in construction ERPs that you think would be a game changer in the next few years?
Yeah, I think the amount of investment that construction companies are putting into technology, I don't have the official numbers, but in my experience, and we work with a lot of construction businesses, I think the IT spend is up at least 25% across the board. I think some organizations are spending much more on IT than they ever have. And we're talking enterprise solutions, people, because they're being pushed to be more competitive, more profitable. There's more competition. There's just more everything. So the automation just makes a ton of sense. So I think as we talk about integrations across different applications, the other factor that sort of leads into integrations is almost all of our construction companies are so diverse in the things that they're doing. They're taking on more responsibility on behalf of their clients, and they're the firms that they're working with that is pushing them to do new things in new ways. And so having platforms that are interconnected and working together is only going to be more and more important. The remote accessibility is definitely, these are things that are already here, but I do think this AI layer, what it does, and even doing a little bit of research into CMIC's solution, and that's called Nexus, exactly. That the Nexus solutions the Nexus solution is pretty interesting because you have this like incredible base of data that's been built up over many, many, many years. And that data is the most valuable of anything around AI. Writing logic and doing natural language processing and the large language models are vital, but without the data, they're meaningless. So being able to take a transaction processing system with its data source and putting AI in that and on it and throughout it, I do think it'll change a lot. I think the decisions that people make on a day-to-day basis will be better. But I think ultimately, I think most of our clients are struggling with resource availability and just great people that they can bring in. And so if we have these great people and we can automate the more mundane tasks that they're doing, it makes them more interested, more willing to create, and more thriving in a thriving ecosystem within the organization. I do think that of all of the sectors of companies that we work with, specifically in construction, you've got to have your eye on this AI thing. Because it's so easy to just say, we'll worry about that when it matters later. Being able to go into solutions that are maybe more purpose built towards being able to then move into AI, that process is hard. There's a lot of steps you have to get to be able to leverage the AI. So if you're able to do your homework now and get those solutions in place, and get your technology stack sort of, when we have documents on this on our website that describe the specific steps that you have to take to be able to actualize AI, then you're ready. You're ready for what's to come. But I mean, we're very excited about it. We think that, especially in construction, that the opportunities are just going to continue to just increase the amount of capital that's available for big construction projects. The amount of people, again, I know it's changing, but the capability that all of our clients are sort of using this time to retool. We do have a little bit of a silver tsunami that's occurring where some of our senior people are ready to retire. But there's a lot of people that we're even meeting, like most of our clients are coming in, maybe they're engineers or they're accountants or whatever for these organizations that are maybe a little bit earlier in their career. And they're willing to risk and go out on a limb and say, hey, we got to change this now for the next generation. So I think it's a very exciting time for construction management solutions. I think we're only going to see more demand. And again, as vendors like you all are putting more money and investment, especially with the subscription model where you have more R&D you can pour back into the solution, it's only going to be better for all of our clients. So I think we have a lot of exciting things on the horizon.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Great.
Well, thank you once again for joining us, and we look forward to more conversations in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.